Glad you came. This is Stephanie in The Secret Place. Today I'm going to be reading from one of my old favorites, which I'm sure you know by now if you've been listening at all to The Secret Place for the past couple of years, Henri Nouwen's The Way of the Heart. This little book is worth getting and buying 10 copies to give it to all your thinking, contemplative friends. This is from page 59, and Nouwen is talking about what he's calling the ministry of silence. We've talked about silence quite a bit and contemplation on this podcast, or this isn't a podcast, this little video. So here's what he says. He says, one of our main problems is that in this chatty society, silence has become a very fearful thing. For most people, silence creates itchiness and nervousness. Many experience silence not as full or rich, but as empty and hollow. For them, it's like a gaping abyss which can swallow them up. As soon as the minister says during a worship service, "Let us be silent for a few moments," people tend to become restless and preoccupied with only one thought: when will this be over? Imposed silence often creates hostility and resentment. Many ministers who have experimented with silence in their services have soon found out that silence can be more demonic than divine, and have quickly picked up the signals that were saying, "Please keep talking, please keep talking." It is quite understandable that most forms of ministry avoid silence precisely so as to ward off the anxiety it provokes. Do you ever feel that anxiety? Anxiety is a big deal these days. I wonder if we truly do have more anxiety in the 21st century than they did in the 18th century or the 15th century, or we just talk about it more and we're just more aware of what's going on our inside, on our inner landscape. Don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't live back then. But I wanted to talk about the anxiety problem and how, if we push through the anxiety we feel from feeling that emptiness, we can push through. There's a threshold to where that silence does not become empty, but it actually becomes something that can help us overcome anxiety. So some of you may experience anxiety in very minimal ways that you're not even aware of, and it's not even a problem in your life. But many people I know have big problems with anxiety. Anxiety attacks, panic attacks, not being able to breathe, just a feeling of dread. Anxiety is explained and described in various ways, but none of them are pleasant. I don't know that I've ever had a panic attack in my life, but there have been times where the anxiety level, the stress level has become so high in my life that it's kind of spilled over into, I almost can't breathe. I have to really deep breathe and just collect myself and stay grounded. So I know what that feels like, almost tipping over into that. Some people deal with it every day, several times a day. It's really a plague. It's a plague in this society. And I'm telling you, I think Nouwen is trying to say the same thing, that there's this ministry of silence. This idea that he said this phrase, the ministry of silence, I jotted it down here. He says, how can we avoid the endless interior recycling of our dilemmas? How can we avoid the endless interior recycling of our dilemmas? That describes anxiety for me. You keep recycling the dilemmas that you're in, the challenges you face, the big problems that are looming, the sickness that is there, the pain, the suffering. You keep recycling these things in inner dialogue, these dilemmas, and they become like the background script, not the script, like the score, like the musical score of our day, of your day, your daily life, and it just keeps replaying, recurring. When we learn how to lay hold of and walk in the ministry of silence, there's a place to go with that anxiety. It's like, because the ministry of silence, or the practice of silence, I should say the practice of silence, I call it silent prayer. I'm just telling you silence in general, because even if you're not praying, if you're not saying even one word to God, consciously, you're just silently going there to a place where you rest and you lay your burdens down, and you lay them down, and you let them flow past you, and you don't, you stop trying to figure out a solution. You just let it go past you. You lay it down at the feet of Jesus. When we do that, anxiety is released. Anxiety is released. Now, I'm not talking about huge mental illness that involves anxiety that needs some kind of medical attention. Yeah, well, the Lord can touch that too. It's not just like the small amounts. The Lord can touch that too. But I've never been one to say just, if your problem is looming so big, go, go to the medical doctors and get some help. Go to the mental health doctors and get some help. Because the ministry of silence isn't like a shot in the arm. It's not like a pill that we take to calm us down at all. It's a process. And that's what I want to say today, this week to you. It's like, it's something that as we practice it, over time, it becomes this process where the richness of silence, the richness of the ministry of silence begins to eclipse the dread of the excess of anxiety. And a switch starts to happen, and it's a beautiful thing. And it takes time. It takes time. I've been working on this, ministry of silence, kind of moving in silence for the better part of, 1990. Oh my gosh, over 30 years. Oh my gosh, the time is just flying. But there was an initial getting accustomed to silence and silent prayer that involved getting accustomed to it, moving past the fear and dread, the emptiness that we talked about in the beginning of the video, moving past that, and that took about 3 years. That took about three and a half years for me to kind of fully get through those hurdles of not wanting to go to the quiet, not wanting to go and get just sit in silence for a while and in silent prayer. It took a while, and so ever since then, there was a kind of it wasn't visible. What do I want to say? There was a felt real nourishment and change that I experienced in the midst of that 3 years. So there was a feeling and a knowledge that I've clicked into this. This is not the way it used to be. This is delightful. This is wonderful. And so I let go of those early fears and concerns and emptiness and whatnot. But then there's a continuing on. That's what I'm trying to say here. There's a continuing on. It's not like you arrive there, you get better with silence, it starts to minister to you, there's a ministry of silence, and then you're fine, you never experience anxiety again. No, it continues on. It's a practice that you develop. We develop this, it's a spiritual practice, and then it just continues, and as it continues, you continue and I continue to heal and be whole. And that's about it for today. I'm glad you came. I hope to see you again next time. See you. This is Stephanie in the Secret Place. Bye now.